Welcome to another episode of the Alamo City Sportscast with Mike Jimenez and Joe Garcia. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Join the discussion as we broadcast live from beautiful West San Antonio. And remember to tip your hosts as it helps the show grow.
Hey, what's going on, San Antonio? This is your boy, Spurnandez, Ric Fernandez. I'm out in San Diego, but you know I'm always puro. So when you think San Antonio boxing, when you think the history of San Antonio boxing, you think the Ayalas, you think Robert Quiroga, and you think our guest today on Alamo City Sportscast, Jesse James Leija, two-time world champion, one of the legends of San Antonio boxing. How you doing, Jesse James? Good to have you here, brother.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm doing well. Thank you. Just relaxing before I head out to the gym.
Hey, man, you're always putting in work, man. I know you're always grinding, so I appreciate you taking a couple of, a little bit of time with us, man, and speaking with us. First of all, man, I want to get into, for those of you who've been under a rock and don't know who Jesse James Leija is, I mean, he's one of the greatest fighters in San Antonio, right? Two-time world champion, amassed a 47-7 record with 2 draws and 19 knockouts. His record is his resume is a who's who of fighters. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but so I love the nickname Jesse James, right? And, a lot of people think it has like an outlaw theme to it. Obviously you're from San Antonio, you're from Texas, you used to rock those black and gold trunks, right? And it had that outlaw theme to it. But people don't know that it's an homage to your late great father, correct?
Yes, exactly. Well,
yeah, talk to us about that.
I didn't start boxing until I was 18 years old. And, obviously I was, the name James Leija, my name's James Leija, right? So my manager, Lester Bedford, was my manager from day one till I retired. He came up with the idea, Jesse James Leija. He thought of the outlaw and the whole thing. But for me, I said, that's perfect because I want to honor my dad. My dad was a fighter. My dad was actually the first San Antonian to ever make it to the National Golden Gloves Finals in 1958.
Wow.
To make it to the National Golden Gloves Finals. He at 112 pounds. My dad was, my height, but he was small, 112. He actually fought at 112 pounds, went to and made it to the National Golden Gloves Finals. The first guy to ever do that in the Golden Gloves. And he had a short career. Back then they were just fighting for money, trying to make money here and there. My mom had to get a job. He got a job, and then after a while, they did well. My parents did well. They had like 13, 14 houses. They had that they were renting out. So mom and dad worked really hard. So when I was 18, I wanted to try my hand at boxing. I said, man, the best guy that I had to train me and to get me ready was my dad. So it was an honor of him, but it also sounded good, Jesse James Leija fighting out of Texas.
Absolutely. Like I said, it matches the whole outlaw theme, but I know it's near and dear to your heart because it is an homage to your late great father. I had a quick cup of coffee in amateur boxing in San Fernando with Joe Sousa and Pat Gonzalez. Back when you and your father were there and your cousin Louis was there. And I'll tell you, man, I remember your pops in the gym, and he was like a quiet guy with a small stature, but he was like. He made you want to listen to him. He was, everybody in the gym knew when Jesse spoke, you listened, and it reminded me.
Talk a lot, but when he did, it was
that's what I'm saying. Like I remember his demeanor in the gym. I was 8, 9 years old, but I remember different people in the gym in San Fernando back then, and I remember your father. And like I said, he didn't say a lot. He was quiet. But when he spoke, everybody listened. Everybody stopped. And it kind of reminds me of you remember in Blood In Blood Out, right? When they're talking about Montana, right? The guards they're looking down and they're like, that little guy runs the gang, and he says, hey, he's got charisma. He's got something that makes you want to listen. And that's kind of what your pops had, man.
You're right. Thank you so much. That's very nice of you to say that.
Of course, man. I remember that, man. I always remember that. Like I said, man, I cut my teeth really quick in the amateur boxing scene. Speaking of the amateur boxing scene, back then, I remember guys like Danny Rios, Arturo Ramos, Javier Alvarez.
Yeah.
Right. Great amateurs out of San Antonio, right? Great amateurs. the Elizondos, Gabe Elizondo, who was also an Olympic trials guy. The Jaramillos, OJ Gonzalez. One of my closest friends was Oscar Diaz. The late rest in peace Oscar Diaz. So those guys were all at 90s, late 80 amateur boxers. You were finishing your amateur career and turning pro. Talk to us a little bit about what you remember about those 90s amateur boxing scene, in San Antonio.
Yeah, well, I turned pro in '88, so
Yeah.
my background was I only had. Yeah, I think one thing that I didn't really connect so much with amateur boxing
Mm-hmm.
because I was only an amateur for 34 fights or 33
Yeah.
fights.
Yeah.
So
You're 23-5 as an amateur, national Golden Gloves champion.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I went to Western Olympic trials in '88,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of people don't know this, but when I was 18, the reason I started boxing when I was 18, I got in trouble when I was 18 years old. Uh, got arrested for like 26 hours. I was in jail or something. But I was so ashamed of myself, and I was like, man, my dad and my mom, how am I making them feel? And I was a good guy. I had a good job. I had all that stuff, but just doing something stupid with a buddy of mine. And so we got arrested. I got out, and I said, you know what, man, I got. Not that I was a bad guy. I just did something stupid, but I said, you know what, I gotta get my life back on track. I'm gonna get a job. I already had a job. I'm sorry, I already had a job, but I'm saying I'm gonna get in shape. Well, first of all, I bought a bag. I said I'm gonna buy a heavy bag, put it inside the garage, and get in shape and do stuff. And Dad never wanted to box because he knew the life of boxing, how hard it is, and so he didn't want us to box. So I had to do this and then go back inside because he didn't want us fighting. Right? We come back there, a week later, do this, maybe keep your hands up and go back inside. So about a month of this or a month and a half, he said, you know what? If you're gonna do this, let's do it the right way. Let's go down to the San Fernando gym. Let's start working out and see how it works out. Well, 2 years later, I'm in the Olympic trials, and so my dad saw something, and even though he didn't want us to box, he saw something that he saw some potential. But I still didn't want to turn pro. I didn't. That wasn't the game plan. The game plan was just to get in shape so I could join the fire academy or the police academy, something, right? I wanted to make my parents proud, and so, the Olympic trials, I turned pro just to see what would happen.
Right. Wow. Speaking of the Olympic trials, so you were in the '88 Olympic trials after winning the National Golden Gloves, right? You fought Kelsey Banks, who you lost to in the trials, who went on to represent the U.S. in the '88 Olympic in Seoul.
Yes.
That squad had Ray Mercer, Riddick Bowe, Michael Carbajal, and of course Roy Jones, who famously got robbed, right? Um, Talk to us a little bit about your, because I know you still have a connection. I seen your pictures with Riddick Bowe and your connections with that team. And because that was a good team in '88. And kind of like the difference between Kelsey Banks, in amateurs versus you turning pro. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, even the amateurs, it was such a fast thing going in and going out. I didn't really make friends. I didn't make friends with anybody until I turned pro. Roy Jones, Riddick Bowe, all those guys that were there. It was just because I was a pro fighter, not because I was an amateur fighter. Um, but it was just it was always growing for me. I was always trying to learn everything I could as an amateur. So if I did turn pro, which I did, but I didn't know I was, it was my manager when we talked to Lester Bedford. He goes, I would love to have you. I would love to sign you. You may never make money. You may never make it. It's a really tough sport to be in. He goes, but if you do, he goes, being in it, hopefully, you've already gone to Olympic trials, so your name's known a little bit in San Antonio. And if you don't keep your name clean, he was so keep your name clean. So if you don't make it, somebody will want to hire you anyway. And I said, you're right. Guys, that's what I've been trying to do: keep my name clean and do the right thing in San Antonio and uh, promote my city and fight for my city. And that's what we did, and everything worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of fighting for your city, I remember those Hemisphere days. Again, my dad used to take me to those fights, right? And we're gonna get some nostalgic out of you because we know the Spurs used to play there, right? And so the Spurs used to play at the Hemisphere, and people always talk about those raucous crowds and how they were. I remember you fighting Troy Dorsey Louis Espinosa at those Hemisphere fights. My pops would take me there, and that crowd, man, that connection they had with you, it was wild. Like it really was, man. And because I feel like the crowd was like, he is us, he's one of us. And you always fought for San Antonio. Like I said, just the way you walked into the ring, the way you would put that, I remember that, you put that fist out there to your opponent. Um, talk to us about those early days when you were fighting in the Hemisphere Arena.
Yeah, it was incredible for me.
I remember, yeah, how bloodied and battered you were for that Louis Espinosa. I remember thinking you could have easily in that 12th round. I think you had it already in the bag, and you could have just coasted, but you kept going, bro. You went at him, and y'all went to war. And I mean, thank God for Joe Sousa, your corner. The great cut man. I think he kept you, somewhat. He probably said, "Man, I can't stop all this bleeding," but Joe Sousa is a great cut man. You know, I agree. I think that was that was your moment of, hey, this guy belongs here, because that was back in the Tuesday Night Fight days and USA, where the USBA title and NABF title kind of was the stepping stone, to the next thing.
Had to really fight to get up on TV, or you really had to fight
Oh yeah,
for a great fighter to be on TV. You really had to really fight for your career. It wasn't just give me an easy fight and I'll beat this guy. You really had to fight tough in the 90s.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it definitely was harder to get on TV and harder to get known back then. So you had to win those tough fights. Which after those Hemisphere fights, that brings us to the first Azuma Nelson fight, which was at the Alamo Dome under Chavez Whitaker undercard. 60,000, first event at the Alamo Dome. I was there in the nosebleed sections with the binoculars, and I was about 10 years old, something like that. But Azuma Nelson, warrior, right? I mean, road warrior. We all know that, professor. Your name is linked with him. It's kind of like a Barrera Morales type situation because you guys fought not 3 times, 4 times. It's not even a trilogy. It's like a quadrilogy, if that's even a thing. If I'm not mistaken, that first fight, they originally announced it an Azuma win. And then they came back and looked at the cards and ended up being a draw. Right?
You know what? It didn't matter whether I won or lost or whatever. It was a draw. But I, really thought I won the fight. But me being my first world title fight, and I thought I had won so many of the early rounds. I said to myself at the end, man, I got to make sure I don't get knocked out in
Yeah.
the fight, right? Which is an amateur before after the lead. And so after it was a draw, I said, okay. And then I get to a rematch. So I said, in the rematch, I'm gonna do exactly what I did in the first fight, just not take it easy the last 3 rounds. And so in the second fight in Vegas at the MGM in 1994, after him never took a break and beat him decisively. And it was a great fight, great part, one of my greatest fights of my career, one of them. It was just a incredible night for us.
Man, I remember that fight. That was we're actually 30. We're at the 30-year anniversary of that, May 7th.
30 years, yeah, 2 days.
30-year May 7th. Yeah, I know. That was oh man, I love those cards. You can say what you want about Don King, but those cards back then, the revenge, the rematches, right? All the cards were rematches, right? And you opened it with Nelson. And it was Terry Norris, Simon Brown, Julian Jackson, Gerald McClellan, and then of course Chavez Taylor. And that card was amazing, right? And you opening that card, and I would say you boxed. I think it was a 12-0. You like clean sweeped him that fight.
Yeah, it was a great. I'm not sure if we opened it up or not, though. I thought it was a.
It might have been Terry Norris, Simon Brown. I thought you guys opened, but I could be wrong. It could be Terry Norris, Simon Brown. Yeah.
You can't even explain the night and how the day went and how the atmosphere was. It was just. It's something that's hard to say, hard to explain how great that felt. Just getting into the ring, walking into the ring, how it was just it was magical. And had a great fight, but it was just one of those memorable days that you'll never forget.
Yeah, no, I remember that, man. And those, I remember those cards. I feel like they were like $20, $30 or something to order on pay-per-view back then, which was great. It was amazing. Now they're like $100, right? But my family would get together more on fight nights like that than Christmas, holidays, anything like that for Chavez fights. But having those undercards, and that's where I to this day I'm not, I go to watch fights and people are like, oh, I just want to watch the main event. I will park my butt right there and watch all the undercard fights. You know what I mean? Because I remember from back then, because that's what I did back then as a kid, sit there, watch all the undercard fights because there's amazing action in those cards, So I definitely remember those cards that you were part of.
I wouldn't watch the undercard fights because those are the great fights. The undercard,
Yeah.
notoriety, they're fighting for their record. They're fighting to get on top. They're fighting.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I after the fight in Vegas, after beating Zuma Nelson, um, I'm in the plane coming back to San Antonio. We're taking pictures with everyone. The pilot.
Yeah. You got the green belt. You got the green belt, the WBC, bro.
We have it. I'm wearing it all the time, right?
God.
Pilots come out. They want to take pictures with it. I'm taking pictures with everybody on the plane. We get to San Antonio. Everybody's there. All the TV stations are at the airport. People are standing in line to take pictures and to talk and I'm on top of the world, right? I'm on top of the world, I'm world champion, right? It was something I worked hard for, six and a half years, and my wife, we're all there. The whole team is, pumped up and ready. Then my wife and I drive home. My wife came to Vegas like a week early, we were there a week early. And we get to the house, and my wife goes, something smells in here. And she goes, did you take out the trash before we left? And I said, oh, I don't think, whatever. She goes, will you take out the trash? And I look at her and I said, I just want a world title. You don't tell me. She goes, yeah, but I'm the champion here. You're going to take out the trash. So I said, okay.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Man,
yeah, you like, look at this. I got the green belt. I got the WBC belt on me. I just beat a Zuma Nelson, but my wife's got me dumping the trash.
The trash, man. Come on, man.
Hey, man. I love that story.
But
I love that. That's an awesome story, bro. I love that. That's funny.
We are, it's like, oh, you're the champion, yeah, but I'm the champion here. So
absolutely. I love that, man. That's funny. So yeah, after that, obviously, you're one could say, hey, man, that's a great career right there, right? Hey, Zuma Nelson, got some wins here, but that's the start, bro. That was the start. Your record, your resume after that reads of who's who: Gabe Morales, Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Shane Mosley, Juan Lascano, Ivan Robinson, Camacho Jr., Mickey Ward, Kasha Zhu, Panchito Bojado, Arturo Gatti, right? I mean, that list of names is
Espinosa. I fought everybody, man.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing, I'm glad you brought that, but that's the thing too is I fought everyone, man. I wasn't gonna, my manager Lester always said this, and it's right, is I dare to be great. I want to be a great fighter. I want to be known as one of the best fighters in the world, and I tried. I wanted to be. I'm not that. I'm not a pound for pound guy in the world, but I know I didn't duck anyone. I know whoever they offered me to fight, I was taking it because it's about daring to be great. I want to be a great guy, and I can look at myself in the mirror every single day and say I gave my best. I never took a backward step. I never ducked anyone, and I can say that. There's not a lot of fighters that can say that.
Absolutely, and I think that's the spirit of San Antonio. That's that's like the spirit of the hard working class people in the city, right? It's very akin to that same concept where you work hard. Hey, I might not have much, but what I have, I earned it. I worked for it, right? And like you said, this day and age, a lot of people talk about fighters ducking fighters and who doesn't want to fight who and who's the A side and who's the B side and all this stuff. But like I said, your career, man, there's not too many people that could say they fought Ward, Gatti, Zhu, Bojado, Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya. So what stands out about you when you think of all those names and the fighters that you fought? Because and I'll tell you after you say, I have an idea to me who I think your greatest win is. It's in that list that I just mentioned. But who stands out to you?
Who stands out to me as a fighter or as a as my most memorable fight.
I mean, yeah, just your memorable, or just something that you remember out of all those name guys. Again, you were with Oscar in New York. I mean, you fought Sugar Shane, and Camacho Jr. was highly touted when you fought him.
Yeah.
And you gave him all hell.
Yeah. I think, there's obviously I fought so many fights and I had great wins at a lot of places, but one fight that I had that was it was only during the fight that it happened. Like we walk out to I'm at Madison Square Garden, right? I walk down to the ring. I'm in the ring and I'm looking. I have a tough fight in my hands. I know that, but I'm looking around. I get into the ring. I'm looking around. I look at all around the ringside. You see every major movie star, football
Mm,
player, actor, basketball player, and I'm like, wow, man, they're here to see us fight, right?
yeah.
And then I said, if these people only knew what it took for me to be where I'm at right now, they would probably cheer for me a lot more. Or no, Oscar was the guy, right?
Sure,
But
sure.
but if I would say I've only been fighting for 6 years, and I'm here at this spot right now. I've only been fighting for 6 years, and look where I'm at. That's hard work that I put in, and that's something that a lot of those people they know that. But I said to myself, if they only knew what it took for me to be here, they probably would cheer for me on. Then I said, okay, fight time, let's go.
Yes.
It was to me, it was like I was patting myself at a boy. Then say, okay,
Yeah.
get your ass back to work now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever happens, happens. And I went after Oscar. I was going, but he was just, amazing power in that left hook. He knocked. Thing is about Oscar, how strong he was. He knocked guys out at 130,
Hmm.
135, 140, 147, 154, 160.
Oh
Can you imagine
yeah.
how strong he was at 135 when he's knocking guys out?
Whew. Oh
That's what people don't
yeah.
understand.
Oh
He
yeah.
hit that hard, and it was just his left hand, right, and his height. And I'm 5'5", he was 5'10", maybe 5'11". So he had a lot of that, but I wasn't going after him. I was trying to knock him out.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I remember that fight. I want to say that was like 95, if I'm not mistaken. It
Uh,
was New York City.
95, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that one. I'll tell you, I love the Camacho Jr. because I remember you gave him hell and he was highly touted. Of course,
Yeah,
everybody knows his father, Hector Macho Camacho, and all that. And he was junior. Everybody, thought he was the next big thing, and you gave him a lot of fits. But the Panchito Bojado fight stands out to me. Here we are, 2004. You're a veteran at this time. You've had some wins, you had some losses, you took in some bumps. Panchito Bojado was a extremely highly touted Mexican amateur. I mean, this kid, I remember he came out of the 2000 Olympics, and him and Cotto, they were marketing him and Miguel Cotto as like the next big, this is the
yeah,
2000s. And even though Bojado had taken an upset loss to Rubio, he had already avenged that loss. He was on like a 7-fight win streak, if I'm not mistaken. He had beat guys like Manuel Claudy and Andre Eason, who were very good fighters. You were supposed to be another name on his record. You were supposed to be the showcase for him. He was the guy that they were building back up, and you took that kid to school. I
yeah.
remember that one. I want to say it was on the undercard of a Gaddy fight.
Gotti Doreen. We found out.
Doreen, yeah, Gotti Doreen, yeah, which when Gotti gave him that a massive body shot. But talk to us about that Bojado fight, because if I'm am I off or not? Because they were touting him as the as
Oh no, yeah,
you know,
stepping
and the
stone.
kid was talented, and the kid was uber talented.
Well, look, I don't know. So there's a couple of and not that I hate it, but there's a couple of people say, oh, you whatever. I said it because of what happened, but so there's a thing. I was thinking about this today. It's funny how we're talking about it. I was thinking about this today. Is that there's a thing where Ringside has the best I fought or something like that. The best I fought. Ringside magazine. The Ring. I'm sorry. The Ring magazine.
Oh yeah. Oh, where they say like who has the best left
It's
hook or jab or what? It's like a little categories.
supposed to be like the best I fought, right? Whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they give you a question like who's the toughest, who's the strongest, who's the whole bit. They did that to me as well. I have an article in there, but one thing people don't understand, I always tell like I fought Oscar, right? Oscar was all power, right? Tall and powerful, right? Strong left hook. I fought Shane Mosley, fast, super quick. That was what he had going on from speed, right? And I went 9 rounds with Shane Mosley. I only had 7 days to get ready for the week. No, hold on. I had 20 days to get ready for the fight. 20 days to get ready for it. I wasn't in training camp. They asked me if I was taking it. I said, heck yeah, I'm going to take it. Remember, I fought everybody, right? So I took
Prime Shane Mosley too. Prime Sugar
yes.
Shane.
I
Yeah,
went to
yeah,
Shane Mosley.
yeah. Whew.
Right
Yeah.
in 20 days, and I had to lose 17 pounds.
I didn't know
17,
that.
20 days I had to drop. And I fought him, and he says this, that I gained one of the toughest fights at 135. Can you
Mm.
imagine that? And
Wow.
and there's other things going on with that too. But going back to the Bojado fight, is I Bojado and I had a great fight camp for it. I had a great um, we had a great technique for it. We had a great game plan for Bojado. But I was fighting with separated ribs. The last
Mm.
3 years of my 2 years of my career, I had a separated rib that was right under my sternum, right here, that never got better because there's not much blood flow, and it was always separated. So if I got hit in the side, it moved, and it's
Mm.
just like the worst pain in the world. And in the Bojado fight, the first 2 or 3 rounds, he was hitting me on. I'm sorry, he was hitting me on right on the rib, and I was like, I was in my head. I already said, take a knee and call it a career. It hurt
Mm.
that much. Then he hit me again. Then it's like, oh, take a knee, call it. I couldn't breathe. Every time you hit, it's
Yeah.
like you're trying to.
Wouldn't have been any shame. It would have been, hey, it is
But
what
it's
it
okay,
is.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Yeah. Veteran, good career.
By the time it was the fourth round, fifth round, he hit me again, and I'm telling you, I looked at the ring floor, and I said, okay, I'm gonna find this spot and take a knee, and that's it. I can't go anymore. And it didn't happen. But in my head, I said, take the knee.
Hmm.
But my body didn't do it for some reason, whatever. It didn't do it. By the seventh round, I said, hell no, man, I'm winning this fight. I cannot stop. And I'm telling you, the pain was crazy. Um, so I won the fight, right? Big fight for me, and that got me
Absolutely.
the Gotti fight. But
Hmm.
I tell people this story is that I don't know if you ever had to put an animal down, put one of your pets down, because they're old or they're sick or
Hmm.
you got to put them down. But right before you put them down, I had to put a bunch of my pets. I had a lot of pets that have old, just got old and you had to put them down. But right
Hmm.
before you put them down, they have so much life left in them. Like, wow, man, should I put them down? Do I have to put them
Right.
so good right
Second
now?
guess it.
And that
Yeah.
was me. I was
Hmm.
like, I was the old guy, 38
Yeah.
years old, separated rib, bad elbow. And with the Bojada fight, I looked great. I did great. I
Hmm.
beat the young. He was 22. I was
Hmm.
38. He was
Wow.
22. I was 30. Or he was 21. I
Yeah.
was 30. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
And he was. And I said this in this article. He was probably the best talented fighter I ever fought. He had power. He had
Hmm.
speed. He had technique. He had reach. He had movement. He had
Oh
youth.
yeah.
Oscar had height and power. Shane Mosley
Hmm.
had speed. But this guy had it all. And not because I beat him, but we had a great game plan for him. Well,
Hmm.
I beat him, but maybe because he was so talented that he didn't have to work as hard.
Right. Hmm.
I had to work hard because
Right.
I'm not a talented guy. I have some technique, but none of
Sure.
these guys had. Shane Mosley has speed and power,
Yeah.
whatever. If I had said that, people say, "Oh, you only said that because you beat him." No, everyone said it. Everyone
Hmm.
thought he was going to be the next Oscar de la Hoya, if not better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so, I was just saying, well, I'm just repeating what everybody else said, that he was supposed to be probably the best fighter I ever fought. Probably, but he didn't. Maybe he didn't have a work ethic, and
Hmm.
that's something that was lacking. That's something you need. And then after that, I fought Gotti, and after the Gotti fight, I don't know if you ever watched that fight again. In
Hmm.
the fourth round, he caught me with the uppercut right before the
Hmm.
right as the fourth round ended, and
Hmm.
I went to my corner, and I was trying to breathe. And Ronnie Show just said, "I'm going to stop the fight this next round. Go after him," and I went after
Hmm.
him, and
Yeah.
that's
Man, wow, those are amazing stories, man. Thank you for sharing them, man. Speak Ronnie Shields, man, hell of a trainer. Goodness gracious, you want to talk about Texas boxing, Houston
uh,
boxing, man. Ronnie Shields has been around. That's what's funny, now you see him with the Charlos or whatnot, but people don't realize that he's been in the game so long. I remember him with you back in the day, right? So Ronnie Shields, and he worked with Oscar Diaz,
and
yeah.
one thing too is that. One thing about my dad. So, how many dads do you know that have trained their son from day one, and that would let another trainer come and train their son? Not many.
That's no, the ego. Their ego is I want to be the man in the corner,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
All of them. You know what my
Yep.
dad? My dad said, "I don't know everything in boxing. I'm not the smartest guy, but that was a
Hmm.
great fighter too. He was, I
Sure.
got,
Sure.
but he said, and the style that I have has always been the style my dad trained me to do. Ronnie came up with game plans and stuff, right? But the style I have is the style that my dad trained me to have. But my dad was smart enough to say, I don't know everything. I'd rather have my son learn from better trainers or trainers that he can learn from, because it's about my son's safety and my son's winning and my son's career. It's not about he didn't put himself first. He put, and I'm like, wow, to do that as a father of two sons, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do that because I'm not as
Right.
strong as a man as my dad. So you have to be a strong guy to do that. And my dad
Absolutely.
let another man come and train
Hmm.
his son and
Hmm.
said, here you are. And my dad would always be in the corner, but
Yeah.
Ronnie was, took the lead and the
Hmm.
fights that I had with Ronnie. But it was all because of my dad. All because
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point because, like you said, we see father and son duos in boxing, and a lot of times, there's only so far. Most fathers that get their son in boxing are either amateur fighters or have some, they have some base knowledge. But to
yeah,
get somebody to another level, right, you need, but their ego doesn't allow them to because, like you said, they want to be the man in the corner. And one thing I know about your pops is, even when you had Don Khan in your corner, when you had Ronnie Shields, and you had Rich Giacchetti during that fight. Your dad was always a corner man. He was a second there, so he was still there, right? And so the flavor is there, but he was man enough, like you said, to say, I'll step back and not be the main voice. And yeah, that takes a strong man because, like you said, that's tough,
I don't know.
especially when you're like, I built you,
You have
I
kids,
built you, I started you, kind of thing.
but do you have kids?
I do. I have sons. Yeah,
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 see
and,
that? Yeah.
yeah.
See,
And
having that
it's
man.
funny. It's
Come
funny you say that.
down.
It's funny you say that because my sons play basketball, and I'm not a basketball guy. But when they were little, I would coach them. When they were little. But as they got older, I had to step back because I'm like, man, somebody that knows what they're doing needs to teach you, coach you, right? But it is hard. It's extremely difficult to step back.
Because and the fighters and trainers as dads too. They're not only protecting. My dad. No, my dad didn't say it, but other fighters said, "Well, that's my son. I'm a trainer." But you know what? They're also protecting their wallet too, because they
Sure,
went paid
sure,
too.
yeah,
Never,
yeah.
penny, never took a penny.
Yeah. Wow, man, that is amazing. See, I didn't know that. That's amazing insight. Because, like you said, a lot of these father trainers, they want to be the guy talking at the press conference. You know what I mean? They want to be the guy front and center. We've seen, Danny Garcia's pops. We've seen the Robert Guerrero's dad. Like, I'm just saying, man.
Yeah.
They want to take the spotlight. Your dad would have never jumped in front of a microphone and talked at a press conference.
And that's why the Jesse James. You know,
I love it. I
that's,
love it. I love it. Yeah. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your time as a promoter, because I know you worked with Mike Bata, right? And y'all had promotion for a while in San Antonio. Y'all were involved, or you were really running the Canelo Trout back
yeah,
in
yeah.
San
We,
Antonio. It
we
was
we did
forty
all the
thousand
work
in
for
Alamo
that.
Dome. Yeah, yeah. That was a big one. I'm sure it's hard to start a promotion company. So just talk to us about that.
Well, so here's the thing that happened. I'm trying to get my phone to charge. Um, so here's what happened. Uh, we were wanting to promote some fights, and we had done some fights for Bob Arum here in town, and we called Oscar and said, "Hey, Oscar, we wanna work with you guys, and we've been promoting like 3 or 4 fights, but we want to get some bigger fights and better fights, and we want to work with you." And he said, "Oh, you want to work with us?" And I said, "Yeah, we want to work with you. We want to do a big fight here in San Antonio. We have connections here in town." Um, and he said, "Okay." He said, um, "You have 5 weeks to get ready for a fight, to do a fight. If you want to work with me, 5 weeks." I said, "Okay, what do you got?" He goes, "Canelo in 5 weeks in San Antonio against
Mm,
Trout." He gave us 5 weeks to do it. And
wow.
in 5 weeks, Mike Battah and I got together. Mike Battah is a great businessman. We got all these telemarketers and everyone lined up in our gym to call people. We had 41,000 people buy tickets in 5 weeks,
Mm,
which is unheard of. And
wow.
after that, Oscar was like, "Wow, man, this thing is amazing." So we started up a partnership and all that stuff, and it worked well for a while. Um, and then we started doing other promotions for PBC. We always
Hmm.
did big things here in town. We could have done the small stuff,
Yeah.
the local fights, but we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to have big fights, memorable fights. We did the uh, Maidana, Maidana fight. Who did Maidana fight?
Broner.
Broner, Madonna
Broner,
Broner fight.
Mm-hmm.
We did the kid from Japan and
Kirkland,
Omar Figueroa fight.
Figueroa. Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
yeah.
did that
I did some
fight.
James Kirkland fights, right? Or didn't you? There were
We
some
did the
Kirkland.
James in Houston. We did Canelo James Kirkland.
Canelo Kirkland. Yep, I remember
We
that.
did that.
Mm-hmm.
We did that in Houston. We did the Canelo here when he fought. Who's that guy? He stopped here in town. We did all the Canelo fights here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a good partnership, but like all good things end after a while.
Yeah.
And I won't talk about that, it's just, that's a personal thing, but um, all good things come to an end sometime. But we had a great run.
Mm-hmm.
Any major fight that was happening in San Antonio or in Texas, Mike and I were behind it. We were part of it. Yeah, and we're part of it with other promoters, whether it's Oscar or PBC or anyone else. We were part of it, and we were proud of that. But boxing's a dirty game, baby. Boxing's a dirty game. The business part of it, is dirty. The fighting part is the best part of it, and the cleanest part of it. The other stuff is dirty, man.
That's pretty ironic that the fighting and in the ring seems to be safer sometimes than the sharks, outside.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I never got as hurt. I never got as hurt as
yeah.
bad as I did promoting.
Wow,
Man, beat me up a lot.
Wow, man, that's amazing, man. So we're gonna wrap up a little bit, but I don't want to take up your time. You're good on time still, right?
Absolutely good.
Okay, cool. So I feel like, again, when I was coming up, the Jesse James, the Robert Quiroga, John Michael Johnson, one of my favorite upsets when he upset Junior Jones in Vegas. Those were the champions in my time when I was young, and I was like, wow, this is the like a renaissance period of San Antonio boxing.
The first three champions.
Yep, first three, yeah, exactly, right. So you got Quiroga, Leija, and of course John Michael. I always have the what would have been if with Torito Ayala, right? I always think to myself, man, what would have been, right? My dad used to tell me stories about the Ayalas, right? I feel like we're kind of coming to a new era like that with Bam, with Mario Barrios, right? What do you think about this resurgence of San Antonio boxing, man, with Robert Garcia out here?
And Franco too, Joshua.
Franco, Franco the professor, So I know Robert Garcia has a lot of the fighters out here. What do you think about this like reemergence of SA boxing?
I love it, man. It's the more the merrier, right? The more we need to have, 30 world champions out of San Antonio. That gives us a fight town of a great name, right? It's like San you got all these world champions. We have, 6 world champions right now from San Antonio. And, I think it's great. I wish we had more, but it's going to happen eventually. It's kind of weird, right? Like every 10 years or so, every 12 years, a world champion comes out. But there's some good amateurs out there right now that are just going to get ready to turn pro, and they have promising careers. But you know what it is, man. It's a lot of hard work, and a little bit of luck. And that's what it takes. And the reason I say luck is because I've always one of my sayings that I tell to everybody right now, even my clients at my gym or whatever, I said the harder I work, the luckier I get. And it's not luck; it's just working hard, and good things happen. But as far as I think San Antonio is going to be fine with all the good fighters that we have here now, and all the good fighters that we're going to have in the future.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And speaking of, amateurs and boxing, tell us about your endeavors now. I know you run some boxing gyms in San Antonio with your sons, James and Dean. Talk to us about your gyms and what you got going on over there.
Well, we had at one point we had 3 boxing gyms here in town, and we call them fitness centers, right? 3 fitness gyms here in town. One was on San Pedro, one was on Avenue B, and one was on 1604. And I had the one on San Pedro I had for 17 years, and we closed all the gyms down to make one big gym, which is on Broadway and 410. And it's 8,000 square feet, 2 levels. It's all mainly fitness. It's a fitness gym. But through boxing we have all. I don't have too many pros or amateurs, but I have a lot of businessmen, businesswomen, stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home kids. Anybody that wants to get in the best shape of their life, they come and train with us. I've been training the San Antonio Spurs for the last 21 years now, I think. We've been training forever. My sons and I and our team, We go to the Spurs gym. We've been training them, so we have a great business partnership with the Spurs. Um, Not a lot of people could say that, right? And
Yeah.
we hold that. We're proud of that fact that we help out the Spurs in training camps and during the season. Um, and now, right now, one of the other things that we're working on right now that we're actually on it right now is we're trying to buy the a building in the um, what's the Brook City base. We're trying to buy a
Hmm.
building, open up a gym in the South Side. I've always wanted to go back to the South Side. I'm from the South Side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the opportunities didn't come up, and now there's an opportunity that I may open up a big gym in the South Side, and we're working on that right now as we speak.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome giving back because I know you're Southside through and through.
Yeah,
I've seen some of the pictures. I've seen a picture where Wemby's hitting the mitts. And that one, he's like, and it's awesome because you got the mitts, man, and you're giving him,
yeah.
and he's just like in, right?
And
I love that one.
he's
What's
all
that
in,
like,
man.
man?
He loves
What
it.
was
He
that like?
loves the
Yeah,
mitts. He loves the boxing part of it. Matter of fact, I'm training Sandro. You know Sandro
Sandro
the Spurs.
Mamushkelavili. I saw that. I saw that. Like,
I've
yeah, I
been
was gonna
training
ask
him.
you about that.
We've
Mhm.
been training him a lot lately.
Yeah.
The last month and a half, he loves the boxing. He's coming in. And he said, "I'm going to bring Wimby with me," because we train at the Spurs. But he goes, "I'm going to bring Wimby with me. I want to train with him."
Ah, I
So
see.
he
Yeah,
may be coming in. But either way,
that'd be awesome.
we've always been, we've been partnered with the Spurs. It's a proud thing that I love being part of that team, and my kids get to, it's good business for us, and
Absolutely.
it's a good
Absolutely.
partnership that we've had for 20 something years. Um, we just work hard, man. We work hard every day. Every day I'm at the gym. I train clients. My sons that have their clients. We have classes going on. We have young kids. We have stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, businessmen. We have everybody, and it's a good thing because the hard work that I did in my career is paying off now.
Yeah, man. No, I think that's awesome, man. I think like at the end of the day, like you said, it comes full circle. You start,
Mhm.
you didn't even think you were gonna turn pro. You were like,
Yeah,
man, I'm just trying to stay in shape, stay out of trouble. And like you said, I think when hard work meets preparation that's the luck part. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So and now
And
you're
you,
giving
and you
back
know
to the
what else too?
community.
And excuse me for interrupting, but you know what
You're
else
fine.
too though that you have to, that I am proud of is that you can work hard, you can do everything you need to do, um, you can become the good fighter or whatever. But you know what? You know what's the most important part that I was forgetting right now? But you have to be a good person too.
Hmm.
You have to have the say, know the right things to say, how to say them, and how to connect with people. Because you know, what if I was a dumbass all these years and I was just fighting hard, fighting for myself, and I wouldn't be able to do the things I'm doing right now. I wouldn't be able to know the people I know right now. I wouldn't have the connections that have the connections right now if I wasn't doing the right thing as a person and
Yeah.
being a role model or just doing the right thing as a person. And that's where the next career started because of the things. Remember what I tell you what Lester Bedford said?
Hmm.
Do the right thing. Maybe somebody will hire you if you don't make it in boxing.
Right.
Well, I've done the right thing. I've done my charity things. I've been to over
Hmm.
200 schools talking to kids back in the day when I was in 1991, 92, 93, whatever. And now I have those kids coming up to me. They're 40 years old now. Said, man, you
Yeah.
went to school. I always remember you. I always rooted for you. And I said, wow, man, you're 42
Yeah.
now. That
Yeah.
lets me know how old I am, right? But but doing the right things. And one thing that I don't feel bad about it because it's not, but I wish, and it doesn't happen. I wish that these young world champions now were doing the same thing, and they're not. They're not. It's a different thing. I don't know. They're not doing the same thing. I was at every school. I went to nursing homes. I went to hospitals. I was every day. I was almost doing something almost every day to get my name out there, and that's why I had a great fan base. And now I'm 58 years old. I'll be 58 years old, and
Hey,
I
you
have,
look good for 58, dog.
I
You know
have
what I'm saying?
yeah, I have women and men in their 70s coming up to me, and the women never watched me fight. They're in their 70s right now. And they said, "Oh, you're such a good kid," or "I remember seeing you in the news. Thank you for all you do for San Antonio." They didn't see me fight. It's the stuff that I did in the community. my golf tournaments, my fundraising things that we did. That's why I'm at where I am now, because that's why I'm where I'm at now is because of the things I did outside of the ring. It had nothing to do with boxing. It was about giving back to my community and giving back to charities here in town, uh, having galas and stuff like that. That's what I'm most proud of as well, is because remember, boxing is a short time. What 17 years it lasted, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I've,
yeah.
I've been retired 19 years already.
Wow.
I've been retired
Yeah.
19 years already, and
Hmm.
that means more to me is the things that I've done outside the ring, not inside the ring, outside the ring. And I wish some of these kids now, the world champions now, or young up and coming boxers, would do some of that, but they're not, and it's gonna affect, Th- th- I, I'm not. We got great fighters and great kids and all that, but my name is still out there more than theirs at times as a fighter, right?
Yeah,
And so, you know,
yeah, absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. And you know what? I think you're right. When it comes to, I don't know if it's a generational thing or what it is, but like you
Could be.
said,
Yeah,
it's a different thought process. A
it's
lot
a
of these
different.
young kids, they're into, it's a social media
Yeah,
era. It's a
they connect with media.
it's an instant it's an instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
I need everything now. I want everything now. I don't want to work for it. You and we. I mean, I'm 40, right? So I was one of those kids who saw you as a kid, and now I'm 40. But we grew up in a time where you had to work hard for that stuff. Like nothing was given to you, nothing was
Also,
expected. And like you said, I think when you come up that way, you are grateful to give back. You're grateful to give back to the community. And I think what separates you, because again, you know, let's call a spade a spade. You had a good career, a great career, but if you would have just boxed and never did nothing else after, nobody would have remembered, right? I mean,
yeah,
generally speaking, it would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, he was a fighter. But like you said, the boxing was a vehicle and a catalyst for you to do other things in the
yes,
community that people, like you said, nowadays are still talking about Jesse James Leija, where had you just fought and just been a jerk and kind of didn't do nothing else,
yeah,
you would have been long forgotten.
yeah.
So,
And that's why I always say, I'm more concerned about what I do outside the ring than what I was doing inside the ring, because I'm outside the ring a lot longer than I am inside the ring.
yeah, it's
And
a short shelf life. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
that's something I'm really proud of. And our kids think about this, and it's people tell me this, but you know, it's bragging, but not bragging. But the Leija name is very strong here in San Antonio, and
Absolutely.
it's about trust. It's about giving back. It's about my community service. Not just me, my sons as well. And I'm never a
Hmm.
dad that says, "Oh, my sons would never do this." My son, because they could mess up sometimes, or my
Sure,
one of my
sure.
boys might mess up. Well, you never know what's going to happen. But
Yeah. Kids live and
with
learn,
this,
kids
with
live and
this,
learn. But you
with
built a
this,
foundation. But
yeah,
but that's what I think it is. And it started with your father, right? And,
yeah,
and that's what
yeah,
I have sons too. I have sons too. And,
yeah.
and they live out here with me out in San Diego. And I agree with you. Kids are going to be kids. They're going to mess up. They're going to do
They're gonna mess
things.
up,
But
yeah.
you make the foundation. You set them,
Mhm.
with the foundation, and you hope that you're almost like in their ear when they're about to go do the wrong thing or the right thing.
Yeah,
They remember
yeah,
dad's foundation, and at the end of the day, the kids are going to make their own choices. They're going to grow up. You
right.
can't be with them 24/7, but you set the foundation as a father.
Remember what I said? I had a great dad, and I got in trouble. I
Yeah,
had a
right.
great dad, and I
Yeah,
got in trouble.
yeah.
I got in
Exactly,
trouble too.
exactly.
So I
but
never
but
say
yeah,
never. I never say
yeah,
never.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. But I'll tell you what, man, I think it's beautiful, your family, your wife Lisa, and your sons, and what you do for the community. We're gonna wrap this up here, and I
yeah,
really appreciate you taking your time here. I know you're busy, I know you got clients.
yeah,
But again, from us here at the Alamo City Sportscast, we're a small podcast. We're trying to get our stuff off the ground. Like I
yeah.
said,
Awesome.
I'm an active duty Marine,
Yeah,
who's originally from San Antonio. So myself and Joe and all the team are trying to build this up, and you coming on has been a tremendous help for us, and I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you and keeping the sport alive by doing what you're doing and getting people knowledgeable about other fighters out there and what you guys do. So thank you so much. You're a credit to the sport.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it, man. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of your time. Give them
You as
hell.
well. You as well. Thank you, guys. Take care, bro.
Thanks.